Hi guys, Mita King, and I'm here with Greg and Domo, and we're going to be talking about the Xbox Series X, the Xbox Game Pass, and if what Microsoft has to offer, if it's worth it. We're going to be telling you right now if we think it's worth it and why.
Okay, so let's explore the facts about the Xbox Series X. So Microsoft basically did an Xbox Series X games showcase where they showed off a bunch of games that are exclusive to Xbox Series X and a lot of them on PC. The console is going to represent the next generation of gaming. You know, some of the games are going to run at 120 FPS. Some of them are going to be in 4K resolution. The Xbox Series X has a processor, 3.8 gigahertz processor, very fast, 8 cores. Graphics card is the new AMD RDNA. If anyone knows, AMD is actually the next gen for high-powered graphics cards. So it has really good specs in that regard. 16 gigabytes of RAM and an entire terabyte of storage with an SSD. And with the SSD, they're able to run those games at those resolutions at that FPS that they're basically gloating about in their showcases. All those specs that I just mentioned are just slightly better than the PS5. Actually, the PS5, I think the processor and the GPU are only like marginally worse, and the storage is marginally smaller. So honestly, what do you guys think? Do you think just having a little bit better specs, is that something you would think would push you to buy this console?
No. No. As somebody who grew up with a lot of old games, I will tell you that's how good that game actually is. The design, the replay value. You could go on forever. That could be way more important than graphics. Now, don't get me wrong. Graphics could be very amazing. Like there is some really good looking like that Horizon game that I think is coming out soon.
Horizon Zero Dawn.
Yeah, like there was that Horizon. Remember where you were like, wow, that was like stunning. Like. When it's to that level, it's like, oh, okay, now that's really impressive. But you shouldn't judge a game based only on that, because if you're going to do that, you might as well just watch a movie. I mean, you can just watch the most high-tech movies if that's the only thing you're judging off of. Now, it is nice to be slightly better in power, but that's not really like the main thing. The most important thing is actually the quality of the games. And the Xbox does have some good games, but I wouldn't say that the amount of good games is comparable to the amount of PS5 good games.
Yeah, I agree with that. Now, when it comes to graphics, running the way they actually, the offering itself, some of the games that we did see during the showcase was absolutely visually stunning. Fable looked amazing. I know a lot of people are not exactly too through with Halo Infinite, particularly with the last showcase that they did, but I didn't really have an issue with it. Forza looked incredible. Now, ultimately, there's no surprise. I'm a huge Sony fan. I've always been a Sony fan. I've had Xbox systems in the past, and looking a little bit deeper into the current offering, I'm reminded of the reason why I've been gifted two Xbox consoles in the past, and why I never really held on to them. I mean, every single time I either requested it as either a birthday present or Christmas present, and after having it for a couple of months, I usually end up regifting it. In fact, the last one I had, I donated it to the Salvation Army. I decided to take the tax credit instead of keeping the system for the following reason. Now, there seems to be a pattern here, right, with Xbox. Every single time a new system is when they have a new offering, it seemed to me, from a consumer standpoint, that very similar to movies, and follow me here, hopefully you guys this will make sense. You know, you could typically tell when a movie's gonna be great because they give you just enough in the common attractions so that you're gonna be intrigued to actually pay your money to go see the movie. The red flags is usually when you have movie studios that seem to put all of their financial budgeting into just marketing and advertising, and not necessarily into developing a proper script and hiring adequate actors to actually tell you a story you're going to be moved to actually spend your money to go see. Similar things with Xbox has happened in the past, right? Where they get this massive budget, some might argue it's almost unlimited because it's Microsoft. Now here's the problem. They give you the song and dance for the system. They promise all these games are on their way. That's what happened with the very first Xbox system I purchased. What I was gifted to me, I requested as a birthday present. And then I held on for almost a year and a half. Promises after promises, aside from Halo, it never really materialized. So guess what? With the next generation of Xbox systems, right? I decided to get that as a Christmas present. Guess what? At the end of the day, I gave them the benefit of the doubt. I'm a fan of Halo, not to the degree Jason Zimmerman might be, or some of my other friends might be, but I wanted it to work. I wanted it to be successful. I'm one of these people, I have the PS4. I've had every single PS systems that they offered. Same thing with Nintendo. And when the Xbox came out, naturally as a gamer, I wanted it. I was excited about it, right? Because I believed in the whole process, right? Required the console. At the end of the day, once I received it, it was very, very disappointing.
With the 360 drop, I like how you brought up the 360. So the 360, that was kind of like where they were dropping. It was like early 2000s or like mid early 2000s. They had like Halo 2, I believe.
Yeah.
And then I believe the Gears series launched, right? So there were a few titles, and there was no, hey, let's go play Halo on PC. Hey, let's go play Gears. Someplace else. Obviously, you can't play Gears anywhere else, but like you can't nowadays. You have the Master Chief Collection, so you have the choice, right, of whether or not you want to buy the Xbox console to play Halo or just play it on your computer, which is really nice. It took them a while. And then they released the Xbox One. Xbox One. I don't think anybody in this room has an Xbox One.
No.
I actually believe I used to have one. Normally I would buy an Xbox console for Halo.
Okay.
Unfortunately, there was no Halo launch with the Xbox One. The Xbox One, they dropped games like Killer Instinct and like a few other games, like some sports games and stuff like that. And it was like the first time that Microsoft kind of didn't really do very much with gaming at all, and they were pushing this television.
Exactly.
Yeah, so and that's when the whole memes of like started, where like Xbox is just all TV, whereas Xbox has games. Hello, and then now we have the Xbox Series X. Yes, it has the specs. The specs are phenomenal, right? But nowadays, at least back in the day, it was you were usually either a console gamer or a PC gamer, and you were kind of forced into like one of the two. Because games were not really cross-platform unless there was just like Microsoft to Sony, and that'd be pretty much it. And then with time, it started to become Microsoft and Sony to PC. But now they sort of dropped this new thing called the Xbox Game Pass.
Talk about it.
So, all right, this new thing. All right, I'm gonna describe it a number of ways. You guys are gonna have to follow me here. So, the Xbox Game Pass is a lot like Netflix. Where you have a huge catalog. It's an online catalog, but you can choose to purchase it for your console or purchase it for PC. So when you purchase it for console, it's a lot like GameFly, where you kind of just you pay one subscription service, or you pay for a subscription service per month, and you have access to like basically everything that they have to offer as far as gaming. But it's better than GameFly in the sense that you can't just get one or two games at one time. You can just play everything. And you just download it. And it sounds great, right? And then you don't need Xbox Live to access it, which is another huge problem I had with Microsoft, where you couldn't access anything unless you had Xbox Live Gold, which is crazy, by the way. But yeah, you can. Then they bundled it with Xbox Live, so you can pay like $15 a month. You have Xbox Live Gold, you have Xbox Game Pass, you have a large catalog of games, which is nice. In fact, I would argue that Xbox Games Pass is more of a next generation
than the new system
slew of gaming than the new console. In fact, you can honestly, as a consumer, make a choice. Like before, you didn't have to make a choice, or you had to you basically had to hard commit to being on an Xbox console if you want to play Halo, if you want to play Gears. Now it's like, okay, well, I can just get the Game Pass and essentially play a bunch of games on my Xbox One or my PC, or if I decide to get the Xbox Series X, I don't really need to go to this next generation console in quotation marks, because all these games are technically releasing on PC. I believe there's only a very small number of games that are exclusively on Series X. In fact, a lot of the showcase was just games that were coming out on both Series X and PC. So in my opinion, Game Pass is what they're trying to push. But here's the thing: they're using Game Pass to mask the whole concept of hey, we're releasing this new console, and we're basically doing what we've always been doing, where we just launch it with Halo, right? But in this case, we know we're launching Halo on PC at the same time, so you can make a choice. So we know you can make a choice, so we're going to give you this whole Game Pass thing, kind of compete with Steam a little bit. You know how Steam has like basically every single PC game, or most PC games, unless it's released on a Blizzard or Riot Games or some sort of client that's not separate, that's not with Steam, but most games are on Steam. So basically this is like the Steam competitor, but Microsoft is giving some exclusivity by offering discounts for some games, and making it so that you're not just buying $60 game every single time. That kind of makes me feel like it's like an in-app purchase type of situation.
100% in real life.
Yeah, as a consumer, it just keeps me from Xbox. Like, what's to keep me from just going on Steam? Are they going to remove Halo from the Steam package and just only keep it on the Game Pass? Like, there's so many things they can do to kind of like make us as a consumer kind of or put us in a pinch where we have to like reach in our wallet and pay them more money. So honestly, I don't know if Microsoft's they basically just given up as like the console titan.
I'm gonna say it, the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
Domo, sorry to interject
Go
here.
ahead.
I have to just say it, guys. One can argue Microsoft has given up.
Yeah.
I feel
Yeah.
as a gamer,
Yeah.
right? I sincerely feel that Microsoft, when it comes to console gaming, they essentially are waving the white flag. They're just vacating the space without announcing it to the world, but they've decided to concede this battle. They're giving up the space to Sony. They're giving it up to Nintendo and whoever Gen X is going to be. But in terms of just staying in it and trying to compete in this space, they're bowing out without saying it. But guess what? They saying the quiet part out loud, right? Because they essentially competing with themselves, right?
Yeah.
And right now, let's face it, they have about 10 million subscribers on the live option.
The Game Pass, yeah, because the Game Pass has been out for a little while.
It's been out for a bit, but that's not setting the world on fire, right? So if the goal for them is to make more money, right, to the lower end user, where they offering you quantity versus quality, guess what? This might be the offering for you. But if you're a hardcore gamer that expect more from a company that's gonna probably command perhaps anywhere between 500, 350 and above for this console that you're gonna have, in addition to all of the add-ons you're gonna have to maintain your level of membership, and you have to keep that in perpetuity now, right? Is it worth it? I'm sorry, I just don't see it. I'm sorry, and again, I don't want to be negative. I know some people are probably going to be upset. I'm not trying to rain on anybody's parade. I'm sure there's a fair amount of people that are still going to want to buy this because they're hardcore Xbox fans, and that's great. And that's also the reason I'm a little disappointed in Microsoft in this, because they do have a devoted fan base.
I mean, if you're someone who already owns an Xbox console, the Game Pass is great because it does have a lot of backwards compatibility. There's a lot of old games that they would sometimes have on the Xbox Live Arcade. If you're an Xbox fan and you wanted to play older games, you usually go to the arcade, and there's some good games on there. And this kind of like brings it all together. So if you have an Xbox console, then getting the Game Pass might save you some money at first, which is nice. But as far as like someone who wants to get the new console, like the Series X, the Game Pass there's not a lot of reason for you to buy the new console when the Game Pass exists, which might just be Microsoft kind of admitting defeat on their new console.
Dude, I think that's what it is.
And if that's the case, then they're doing what they want. That's their objective, which is to kind of like, okay, we have this console, but you can kind of ignore it because we have this Game Pass.
I don't think they said it like that.
No, but
that's not good marketing. That's not good marketing.
Yeah, the actions.
Hey, here's the Xbox, but you can kind of ignore it.
Yeah, essentially, with this, because they've been pushing Game Pass since April, and they got a bunch of people on it because there's still a large number of people that own Xbox consoles, and the backwards compatibility thing was a little bit of an issue until relatively recently, and. Yeah, I think this is this is probably like their little attempt to be like Nintendo, where Nintendo kind of had with the Nintendo Switch, where they have the eShop, and then they have this free online NES and SNES classic games that they give to you for being online members, and they don't package it with their Nintendo or the Nintendo service online. So like maybe Xbox was like, okay, well I see what Nintendo's doing here. Kind of like how they saw what Nintendo was doing with the Wii and the motion gaming. They came up with the Kinect.
Yeah.
You know, like if anything, if there's anything that we know about Microsoft as far as console gaming is that they kind of pull from their competitors a lot, and it falls short.
They never truly execute it to the level you would think a company like Microsoft, right? I mean, this is in terms of funding. You know, they have the budget. They can hire the best people to do this. And for some reason, they seem to just want to take shortcuts. I'd rather vote for value. And in terms of the overall catalog between what they're doing with the Game Pass, think about it, right? I can tell you right now off the top of my head, when you compare this to Nintendo and the Nintendo offering, the catalog from Nintendo, I will take that catalog against what Microsoft has done on the console side of the business any day of the week. That's just my humble opinion. What about you, Jason?
Yeah, it really seems like Sony and Nintendo have like clearly pulled ahead of Xbox. Also, it's good to keep in mind that like it's Microsoft. Microsoft, they pretty much have a big part into the investment into both PC and Xbox. So it's not. They're probably thinking it's not too bad if they just have their games on PC too. But from my perspective, it was like, okay, well, in the past, when I was younger, teenager, like I would get the Xbox and Xbox 360 for Halo, Halo 1, Halo 2, Halo 3. I actually bought the console just for that. It was like it was really hard to decide to like convince my parents, hey, let's get this console just for one thing. But hey, the Halo was that strong, especially back then. It was like it was basically like the size of Super Smash Bros. Like the Smash Bros. Equivalent for Nintendo is that version for Xbox. And now that it's on PC, even somebody who's a content creator like me, who could just like, okay, maybe I'll just get it because, you know, YouTube, Twitch, and a bunch of games anyway. So someone like me, I'm like, maybe I should just get it on PC. I mean, I like Halo more on PC anyway, just because I played Halo 1 on PC anyway, and I'm just used to it. But why? I can't fully convince myself, hey, why do I have to buy a system like Halo? It's on PC and Xbox. If you have a strong PC or an average PC, a slightly above average PC, then that's comparable to the Xbox system. Is that accurate, Domo?
Yes.
A slightly above average PC
It is.
would be comparable to the system. So that's already comparable. The best on the PC could be even better. But yeah, basically you're getting the same thing. You just don't need to buy the Xbox system. And the majority of the games, especially in my opinion, most of the biggest notable games, are also available on the PC. So with all these things considered, if you can only buy one and you don't have like just money to throw everywhere, I can't really say in good conscience, with logically speaking, that it's necessarily worth it to get the Xbox when you can just play those games on PC without having to shell out all that money for the console. Now, if you're interested in all these games, well, that's a different story, because then you just want to do this the Series Pass, because then it's like, okay, well, you can try out all the games at least, and then maybe if you could try out all the games in 2 months, and then it's like, okay, well, I got what I wanted out of these 2 months. I had fun with some, I didn't like others. But if you're not interested in a very large amount of this selection and you just want a smaller amount of this selection, you can just buy the games for the PC. That's pretty much my opinion on that.
You could not have summed that any better than that.
Yeah.
That's the reason why initially when we got together and we started to discuss options in terms of how we wanted to approach this subject, we did not intend to create this type of video.
Yeah, we didn't.
Yeah, I was just gonna do like the Xbox games I'm looking forward to the most, and then the PlayStation games. I'm like, wait a minute, there's a lot more PlayStation games I was genuinely highly interested in than the Xbox, based on the trailers they showed us. Now, it doesn't help that these trailers, and by the way, everyone's guilty of this, or not everyone, but the vast majority of trailers that I've seen for games is guilty of this. I want to see more gameplay, because that's, to me, the most important part. But they're just showing off the pretty graphics and cinematics. That's nice and all, but I'm playing a video game, not buying a movie. I would like to see more gameplay, and I wish more trailers would do that. So, I didn't get to see enough gameplay, on average, when you can look at the big picture, as I would have liked for a lot of these games. So I can't say, oh, I'm definitely super interested in this game from Xbox, this game for PS5, etc. But based on what I have seen from the Xbox, showcase and the PlayStation showcase, PlayStation 1 definitely intrigued me more overall by a solid amount, with the exception of Halo Infinite.
Yeah, I mean, you guys might think, okay, come on, guys, you're just hating, like, come on, the console has really good specs. Look at the games they showed off. Some of what the Xbox Series X can do has, is things that most games are not running at nowadays. But the thing is, let me give you a perfect example, and I hope this makes more sense to people. You know how we gave the example of buying a console for Halo, right?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, when I bought a
Millions of
360,
people
I
did.
bought a 360 for Halo, and I bought it for like Tales of Vesperia. Right now, both of those games are on Steam, right? So if this Xbox Game Pass, which has like right now about roughly 100 games on their catalog, which is really nice, but then there's something like Steam. Like, what if I've already bought these games on Steam? I already play a lot of the games that are on Xbox Game Pass, on Steam. So what's the purpose of me purchasing a Series X when I know that the Halo game is going to release probably on Steam, unless and here's the crazy thing, and maybe I haven't done enough of my research. What Microsoft could do is just pull out of Steam.
Chances are that's what they're gonna do.
And then we're forced to do Game Pass.
They're just gonna lose me altogether. I'm sorry.
Which means rip. Like we're gonna have to do subscription service gaming for console gaming, which I don't know if that's a good way to reinvent the wheel. We're already pretty annoyed with in-app purchases and subscription services with mobile games. I don't know.
Now there's no escape with Microsoft.
Yeah, trust me when I tell you guys, like this is, they're definitely doing something that is trying to get us to ignore the Series X as a console. And if we buy it, we're gonna find out like all too late that we could have just stayed on PC and bought our games on PC. I don't know. I hope this doesn't create a bad taste in people's mouths, but
the goal here was to essentially illuminate the current climate and what's happening with this offering. And again, it comes down to this, right? When it comes down to whether or not you're gonna hit your wagon, with either Sony or Microsoft, right? One of them have a better track record. Let's face it. The reason that I became a fervent Sony supporter was because I looked at the landscape and Sony had way more to offer in terms of gaming catalogs, in terms of the games that I'm interested in playing, in terms of the offerings that I can expect on an annual basis that's going to be consistent. Listen, Halo, we understand, is a classic, right? That fan base is not going anywhere, but at some point, they got to stop taking that fan base for granted. I'm sorry, with the amount of money they're going to probably be asking for this thing, this is the question you guys need to be asking. Do you approve or disapprove of this current offering? And what I have to say when it comes to this, myself, I'm going to have to deny this one. Domo?
Oh, I super deny.
Jason?
Get on PC.
Just get it on
get
PC,
games on
dude.
PC.
Just play PC.
If you, like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's pretty much it. Like,
Jason's answer is
Halo's on the PC, Fable's on the PC. Like, there's the majority of the games are on the PC. Unless there's like multiple games that are only available on the Xbox that are not on the PC, then what's the logic?
the
I
PC
don't
life
understand.
is a good way to go. So is that a denial on your part?
I'd say, as of the information I have right now, I recommend just what I'm gonna do. I'm probably just gonna buy Halo Infinite on PC, and maybe a few other games on the PC. Yeah, that's what it's looking toward right now. So yeah, I would say it's not worth it. Based on what I know so far, in my opinion, it's not worth it.
For those of you that are hardcore Xbox fans, please don't take it personal. This was just our opinion on this, and hopefully you guys can join us in the future when we do another review.
Yeah, I'm excited to do more of these. We still have to talk about Sony and some of the upcoming titles that are coming out for all these consoles that we mentioned today.
Yeah, go for it.
If you guys like our content, make sure to like, subscribe, hit the bell. If you really like our content, click join, become a member, and help us out even more. And a special shout outs to our level 3 members, Ford 4D, Flotha1, Zodigan, aka Eganist, and Caucus Flow. And let us know what other types of videos or just your thoughts in general you want in the comments below. And thanks for watching.
Awesome.
Thank you.